What up, bitch? That's a bit harsh. Bit of a briefer video for you guys today. Record store day. I've already done a video on that. Basically, I managed to pick up a purchase of the new Mastodon single, I guess, Stairway to Nick John. Has to be said, at this point, I haven't actually heard the song yet. I picked up the vinyl this morning, managed to get a copy of it. I'm very, very happy with that. Looks great. But I thought I'd give you guys a bit of a background onto what's going on with this single. I'm hoping to, hopefully I'll be able to listen to it later as well and do a bit of a review. Essentially what happened is this: Nick John was the band's manager, and their very loved manager. It seems like he was a really good guy. Mastodon pretty much adored him and he adored them, which is lovely. I didn't mean that to be sarcastic. I think that's a genuinely nice thing. But I think he also managed Gojira and Slayer, and I'm sure he did other bands along the way. Seems like a very nice dude who lived his life supporting and promoting bands who to put great music out into the world, and I think that's an admirable thing. So why is it that the band did a song for Nick John? Well, tragically he passed away from pancreatic cancer sometime last year, I believe it was, and by all accounts he was a huge Led Zeppelin fan. So the band were thinking of things to do for Record Store Day, and basically this is what ended up happening. Now, Nick John, who the band referred to as the band's dad, that's how much they cared for him, at his funeral apparently they performed an acoustic version of Stairway to Heaven. Also in attendance at the funeral was Joe Duplantier of Gojira, who, as I mentioned earlier, Nick also managed, and he apparently recorded the performance on his iPhone, and I think he showed it to the band afterwards and said, hey, this was actually a really incredible version. You should do something with this. You should maybe think of doing something with this. So they were going to release the acoustic version, but I think then they got into the studio and they basically thought to themselves, you know what, let's just do this properly. And they did a full-on studio version, I believe. As I said, I haven't actually had a chance to listen to it yet. So what happens? That made no sense. So there's a couple of other things. First of all, this is a double-sided 10-inch. And on side one we get the studio version, and on side two, and I've got to admit this is probably the one that I'm actually looking forward to hearing more, is the actual version that was performed at the funeral. This is the one that was captured on Joe Duplantier's iPhone, the audio from that, so I'm really excited to hear that one. Another reason that I'm incredibly happy to get a copy of this as well, that it is limited to 1,500 copies. As I said, it was a Record Store Day release only, and apparently all proceeds are going to be going to cancer research, so it's a well worthwhile way of doing things as well. I think that's absolutely fantastic to hear. Cancer seems to be one of those, it's just one of those terrible illnesses, diseases that seems to be ever more prevalent in society. It just seems to be, we all seem to know. I'm sure I read something the other day about, I can't remember, I think it was like 5 in 10 people now get cancer. That's like 50, you know, what the fuck? It used to be like 1 in 10, I'm sure. So it seems to have gone up. I'm sure all the shitty foods and all the crap that we expose ourselves to has a great deal to do with that, I'm sure. So, a highly worthwhile cause. Well, I think that's all I'm going to say for this now. I think the next step is to go home, and hopefully I'll get a chance to listen to it and give you my verdict on what I think. Time travel. Yes, it is actually a couple of days later, believe it or not. So I've had a chance to listen to both tracks now, and I am very happy to report that they've done a great job. The studio version is pretty much that, the studio version. Mastodon are one of those bands, they've done a lot of covers over the years, and they've always put their stamp on it. They've always done a really solid job of really making it their own, putting something else to it. And this is unmistakably Mastodon, but at the same time, this is without a shadow of a doubt the most faithful they've ever been to the original. But that's not a bad thing. First off, Bron Daler does an absolutely stand-up job on vocals. He can't match Robert Plant, but I mean, you know, that's a pretty tall order though anyway. But he does an admirable job. And I also like the echoed effect that is put on his vocals as well. It gives it a real mystic kind of retro feel as well, gives it that real analog sound to it as well. Makes it feel kind of timeless and reminiscent of the original, and also as a fitting tribute to their good friend and manager, Nick John. The other thing that really stood out to me was Brent's solo towards the end. Again, Jimmy Page is Jimmy Page. That's always a tough order to cover that sort of thing, but Brent really puts his stamp on the solo, and I really enjoyed that. It's not many bands you can cover Stairway to Heaven and get away with it, you know. It's they did a really great job. But the real treasure for me on this was the live version, which was played at Nick John's funeral, and this is the one that was recorded by Joe Duplantier on his phone. Obviously the audio quality is what it is, it's recorded from a phone, but there's just something about hearing the live tribute. There's something about hearing the band delivering the tribute where it should have been, for those who were there to remember the man. Again, Bron does a great job considering it's live and in such an emotional situation. And I can also understand why Joe Duplantier took them to one side afterwards and said, you know, I think you guys have got something here. This is you did a really, really good job of this. I was really happy to hear this. And as I said earlier as well, I think it's fantastic that the proceeds from this disc go towards cancer research as well. And it's you can tell it's, for a classic song that we all know so well and love so much, it's not many bands who could do what Mastodon have done with this. And I think the main thing is as well, you can really tell the emotion that's gone into it. It's very heartfelt. They mean it. And it's coming from a real place, and I think that's something you can't really replicate, so I think that's why they've done such a stellar job. Don't download this, don't copy it, don't fucking rip it. If you want to hear it on YouTube, that's fair enough, but if they do release a digital version, I urge you to go and buy it, because like I said, it's, you know, it's for a good cause, it's done for a good reason. Obviously the important thing is that you hear the song and just enjoy the song, but yeah, if you can purchase it, then do. Yeah, Mastodon, fantastic version. I guess the last thing I wanted to say as well is just like, it's really annoying to me how many people have put this stuff up on eBay already and just put it as exaggerated prices. You know, you're entitled to do what you want, but it just sucks that you're stopping somebody else who really would have loved to have had it and making them, forcing people to buy it at a higher price. You just, you know better than a ticket tout. Fuck you. Anyway, let's keep this light. Let's keep this light. Bat Salad, the High on Fire EP that was released. I have heard all 3 songs now, and I might do a review of that. I've done 3 videos in 3 days now. I think that's too much for anybody, so I'll leave it for a day or so before I do anything else. But I might do a review of the Bat Salad EP. I am going to be back with my Devin Townsend Empath Disc 2 review. It's already filmed, I've just got to put it together, and I wanted to get Record Store Day out of the way. I am going to do my Crack the Sky review next week. So if any of you who've been watching this for Mastodon, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that. Always Mastodon content on this channel. I'm going to try and take a look at Sun with their Life Metal album. Managed to pick that up on Record Store Day as well. I'm not going to promise too much else. I don't want to get into the habit of doing that anymore. I just want to take it as it comes and do what I do. So yes, Mastodon, Stairway to Nick John. Fantastic version of it. Worthwhile cause. If you can get hold of it, do. And yeah, that's about it for today. I'll be back some other time. See you then.